Alright, we're going to talk about the Memo some more. And Chris Ann Hall. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the FBI has been playing dirty tricks on people in the United States for an extremely long time. It is not just Donald Trump in the Trump campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, back in the early 1980s, I began to expose a massive financial swindling down in Houston, Texas. I went to the Houston Chronicle. I went to the Houston Post. I went to the Conroe Courier. I also went to ABC News, NBC News, Fox, CBS News, even 60 Minutes, and PBS. I began attending public hearings of racketeering law at South Texas College of Law, public symposiums being held by federal prosecutors and federal judges to discuss the massive, staggering looting of the banks and the savings and loans during the 1980s, the 1970s, the 1960s, and so on and so forth, going back all the way to the early 1900s. The unbelievable land swindling schemes and mortgage fraud schemes and foreclosure swindles associated with the land frauds back in the 1980s that I was exposing to the Houston Chronicle and the Houston Post and to the local television stations in Houston resulted in the savings and loan scandal being exposed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what I didn't know, but I found out later, what I didn't know when I first got involved, but I found out later, was that Charlie Wilson's War, Joanna King and Jimmy Baker and, you know, the whole gang from the Central Intelligence Agency, and Oliver North and Richard Secord and Poindexter and Bud McFarlane and old George Bush Sr. and a whole cast of characters were running Iran-Contra from Houston at the same time. And I said that absolutely correctly. Joanna Herring King, Congressman Charlie Wilson, and George Bush and McFarlane and North and Secord, Poindexter, Robert Owens, let's not leave Robert Owens out of this, and the whole gang from Conroe, Michael Atkinson and Roland Carnaby, and the list of names just goes on, including the Bin Laden family, Clark Clifford, Roger Altman, and the Gulf Manor Airport. So, let's get back to the Memo, and let's get back to the FBI dirty tricks. Folks, you'd think Donald Trump's the only one they've ever done this to. It's just not true, Don Trump. I'm sorry, fella. But the old FBI's been used for a lot of years to silence the dissent and to, what do you call that there, whitewash and cover up and bury the truth. Now, folks, everybody in the world knows that the savings and loan banking scandal of the 1980s was revealed as being very true. And God knows that this fellow right here was hugely responsible. Not solely responsible, but hugely responsible in exposing, at that time, the largest financial scandal and ripoff in American history. And guess what, folks? They didn't stop. They kept right on going with it. And the bubble blew up again in the 90s. And then the bubble really blew up in 2006, 7, and 8. The staggering, gargantuan vanishing of trillions. So, the question begs to be answered. What did they do with all those trillions that were stolen? Trillions upon trillions right up in smoke. Now, is this how they're rigging elections and rigging the government itself? Is this how the deep state, or what's also known as the swamp, is this how the swamp is being financed? And the answer is, oh, yes, it is. Now, for the memo, and this is being addressed to not just constitutional lawyer Chris Ann Hall, but it's being directed towards every constitutionalist group, every constitutionalist lawyer, and every civil libertarian organization that exists in America. Why is it that the Federal Bureau of Investigation can come after people like me with a great big huge pile of lies? And that question's to Senior Federal District Judge Lynn Hughes in Houston, Texas. Judge Hughes, Donald Trump is not the only one that the FBI has pulled these dirty tricks on. I've had it done to me. And all my family and all my friends and the Houston Chronicle and the Houston Post and the Conroe Courier and ABC News, NBC, CBS, Fox, and PBS all know about it. As do you, Senior Federal District Judge Lynn Hughes, Houston, Texas. Now, folks, if the savings and loan and banking scandal of the 1980s weren't accompanied with the massive looting and robbery of the Housing and Urban Development Department, HUD, and, Fannie Mae, the Federal National Mortgage Association, the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, the Federal Housing Authority, the FHA, and we can bring in personalities like Catherine Austin Fitts and the, at that time, Assistant Harris County Attorney Linda Minor. Let's bring these folks into this conversation along with every major news media outlet in America and around the world. How is it that trillions come up vanished, right up in smoke, in the middle of the largest real estate swindling, scheming, subprime, mortgage-backed securities, land swindling, crime wave? It's a crime wave, folks. The crime scene is like nothing ever seen before in history. Now, I'm going to end this up with an address to FBI Director Christopher Wray and that Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Why is it precisely that the people that cooked up the garbage against me in Houston, Texas, being led by former FBI agent John Connally, currently in prison, apparently for the rest of his life? He went down on 10 counts of murder, John Connally did, and they were running cover-up, and they were double agents for the worst known criminals in America at the time. This is before Madoff. This is before Jack Abramoff and a number of your other personalities like Lee Farkas and, Charlie Keating, Neil Bush, the Clintons and their land swindling schemes, and the Clintons and looting the Arkansas Industrial Development Bank, and all the other financial swindlings that the Clintons and their mob and the Bushes and their mob have been involved in for decades. Now, to the director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, I'd like the Senate and the Congress of the United States to hear these words. So please feel free to take this video and all of my other work and submit it to the chairman of the Government Accountability Office and to the president of the House of Representatives. And let's have full-blown deep state, deep water, black water, hearings into why it is that it seems that the Department of Justice and the FBI, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch, John Ashcroft, Alberto Gonzales, Ed Meese, let's not leave Mr. Ed Meese out, and we can even bring in Loretta Lynch and, Jeff Sessions, and talk about the vanished trillions. Vanished trillions and rigged American elections. Folks, I don't know what more to say. But the American deep state, the American swamp, the sewer, as the President of the United States refers to it, as Donald J. Trump refers to this swamp. This secret society of government dirty tricksters, such as the FBI dirty tricksters. Why is it that they're allowed to go around falsely accusing people and harassing them on trumped up, made up criminal information? They weren't even charges, it was information. In my case, there was never even a grand jury. There was never an indictment. There was never a trial. The charges were dismissed. The charges were dismissed. U.S. Senior Federal District Judge Lynn Hughes. The case was dismissed. And I'll tell you why it was dismissed. Because the allegations that were leveled at me were all about shutting me up and silencing me from exposing the largest series of real estate related crimes in the history of the world. In other words, what I exposed in Texas, well, it seems that it's all over the United States. What I exposed in Conroe, Montgomery County, and Harris County, Texas, is all over the friggin' world. U.S. Senior Federal District Judge Lynn Hughes. Folks, the memo, be distracted. Look over there. Come on now. Look, be distracted. It's Memo-gate. Memo-gate, Memo-gate. Apparently, the Russians didn't rig the elections. Huge amounts of stolen trillions. Vast rivers of stolen cash. Trillions is what was used to rig and continues to be used to rig the American political process. Folks, I'm gonna end it right there. There's not a whole lot more that can be said. Hasta la vista. God bless, and you can bet you we definitely be coming back.